It was interesting. I was lucky enough to take a redundancy package from Diageo, so I had a little bit of a cushion. So we completely self-funded the business between Paul and myself. It was slightly daunting, but I probably naively just said we can do it. We set ourselves about 9 months to bring in the first contract, and if at that point it wasn't going to come, then we would look elsewhere. And it came in about 8 months or so, at that point it was just all heads down and deliver, basically. So
what was that first contract?
we started with Merlin Entertainments, Thorpe Park. We did their app about 5 years ago now, and that was great, because there's a kind of an element of naivety that I knew we could do it, and I massive faith in Paul, who has great technical skills, but it was a belief that we could do it, and a knowledge of what was possible to, and then sort of trying to connect that with what the consumer needs, I think was the kind of magic sauce, if you like. So and that's and we learned a lot from that one, and it's evolved from there, really. So
Annabelle and I obviously are close friends. However, she is a silent partner in the business. She's put in half the money, and it is her idea. And for a lot of people say, well, that doesn't seem very fair. But you can't run a business by committee always. So she's very grateful that I do it, and I'm very grateful that she doesn't wade in every 5 minutes. Obviously, with key things, we talk about it, and if she's really unhappy with something, then I'll look at it again and think, well, maybe she's right. And when it comes to making a sport version, she is the queen of sport, so I will be more than happy to let her lead that part of it. But other people coming in, we don't actually have a big team of people, but those who have influenced and helped, I would say Jacqueline Gold has been quite big in it. She's the chief executive of Ann Summers. I tweeted her at the early stages to say, I would love to know how you turned a taboo subject into a high street phenomenon. And she came back and said, happy to talk. So we met for lunch, and she was incredibly generous with her time. She invited Annabelle and I to their head office in London, asked for a list of sort of 10 of our biggest challenges and where we saw the business going. This is way back, just as we launched. And said, I'll get my marketing and development team to work on it and spend a day with you, which they did. And it was incredible what they came up with. Lots of things we had never thought of. Obviously, it's not an Ann Summers market, but they do make knickers and they do understand women. So why not? And she's kind of kept in touch throughout and been great. I'm amazed at the wealth of talent and generosity that is out there to help when you ask for it. Scottish Enterprise have been incredible. Right. From day one, they have offered mentor help, advice. We meet once a month, or we did at the very start, less so now. And Entrepreneurial Spark. I joined them earlier this year. And I'm blown away by being part of a community of other people going through the same kind of thing. Talking to them when you see people having breakdowns sometimes, thinking, I haven't got my manufacturer, my supplier, this has all gone wrong. And someone else will come in and say, I've done that. It's okay, don't worry, I've done that, don't worry about it. I'll help you with it. We all help each other.
Yeah.
We all help each other, and that's a huge support when you've never done that before, and you feel you have moments of doubt. Of course you do. It's not that easy. Like I say, everyone would be doing it if it was.
Quite small, really. I work there full time, so 7 days a week, quite a lot of the time during the summer. And then I've got 3 other members of staff that I can use for various different things, whether they work in the shop, whether they're a guide and go out with groups, or whether they drive the uplift vehicle and take people up to the top of the hill.
So does everybody do a bit of everything?
It's handy if they can, but some people are only available for certain periods of time. Some can't drive but can work in the shop, so you've kind of got to have a pretty big bank of members of staff that you can use. If everyone's seasonal or part-time, you've got to have a pretty big group, so you can, if you need to call someone up at the last minute, you've got a few options. You can't just rely on one person, because if they're busy.
And have those people come to you, or have you sought out a certain type of person?
I've had people come to me. Sometimes it's been at the right time when I can use them. Other times I've been pretty fully booked. Some people come to me wanting a full-time job, and I haven't got a full-time job. I don't really pay myself very much, so I can't offer someone a full-time wage. But it's always good to have other people with qualifications on the books. And when you've got a qualification, you're able to deliver a session to a certain standard. So that's a good way of knowing that having someone will be able to do a certain job to a certain standard, and then I make sure that they can do it to the standard that I want. Whereas having someone in the shop, there's a certain amount of in-house training, but that's sort of on a one-to-one basis.
But partnerships are difficult. Partnerships are very difficult. They are like marriages. In fact, I see my business partner more than I see my wife. So it's important that you set some ground rules down in the partnership. You make sure you know who deals with what in the business. We came from being a general manager and a sales and marketing manager in the health club, and kind of moved those roles straight across and just started doing those jobs in this new business. Had some infrastructure, we had some job descriptions. Yes, we worked on everything together and helped each other out, but we knew who was responsible for what. Talk about money. You need to let each other know that this is what we're going to get paid, and if there isn't enough money, then what happens then? And make sure you've got all the answers to those questions out early, because money is the first thing that'll cause an argument. So we set a lot of ground rules down, and we touch base on those ground rules on a regular basis to make sure that we're on the same page. We're driving forward to the same goal. Because of that, we haven't actually ever fallen out in the 4 years we've been in business, and I have been incredibly grateful to have him along the journey, because there have been times where it's got really, really tough, and you think, well, you know exactly what we're going through, and you know that this is still the right thing to do, and there's somebody there I can go and talk to about, and vice versa, he can come and talk to me about as well.
And were you friends before you started, or are you mainly business partners?
Yeah, just professional. We worked in the same organisation, but we weren't personal friends. Of course, you can't have gone through what we've gone through without becoming friends. We are very close friends now, but at the same time, it started as a professional relationship.
It's been quite tough, and I think there's times when you feel, as I say, it's good to be around other people, because you can feel quite isolated and quite lonely in this kind of dream of what you want to do. It's been a long journey, and I've still got a long way to go, but it's not a straightforward thing to set up a business. It's not easy, but you have to keep being focused and keep going forwards and taking the highs and the lows, really.
Difficult. I previously ran a business with about 120 employees, so when you're in that type of environment, you're building teams and motivating teams. So when I started this business on my own, it was a new era for me in terms of going about an individual type business. So I started to build a team around me with people that I knew and people I could trust, that loved the game of golf. So people that shared the same passion, that could add value to the process. So building that team around me was absolutely critical.
No, I think you just go, well, that was maybe my bad call. They weren't as accurate. A brilliant salesperson, maybe a little deficient in accuracy, and you need execution as well as great ideas and lots of bounciness and positive attitudes. You can't pin the blame on that was the wrong member of staff. You've got to say, well, I hired wrong too.